Skip, I just want to start by asking you about everything that we saw over the weekend. There were marches, there were protests in remembrance of George Floyd. Most of the demonstrations were peaceful, although we did see some violence, some looting. So, Skip, in your opinion, after seeing everything that has been taking place all across the country, what is your reaction?
Jenny, let me start with all the great things I saw over the weekend. The unprecedented turnout of protesters, hundreds of thousands all across this country in cities and towns, and reaching all the way to Europe, to London, where there was a major protest. Again, all because of George Floyd. And in the end, it did my heart good to see the turnout, the peaceful protests, and it was from people of all colors, not just black people. I saw people of all colors, and I saw a whole lot of white people sort of band together, arm in arm, over George Floyd. It's the first time in all the killing of the unarmed black people by white cops that I felt like there was 1,000% lockstep on this one. I didn't hear a single white law enforcement leader over the last 6-7 days try to say yes, but about George Floyd. No, there was not one yes, but. It was always, this is criminal. This was flat out murder. I think the white community for the first time saw no gray area in this one. And that was the good news. That brought us all more together. I'm hearing Shannon. Shannon, are you there? Can you hear me?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good,
Shannon,
Skip. I got you.
Jump in. Yeah, tell me what you saw over the weekend.
Skip, what I saw was a lot of pain, a lot of frustration, a lot of anger. You know, Skip, for me, what's baffling to me is that when I hear white people say they can't understand why it's happening. Skip, if you go back over the last 60 years and you look at if you want to call it a riot, if you want to call it a rebellion, if you want to call it an uprising, if you look at the cause and then the effect of what transpired. If you go back to Harlem in 1964, it was 15-year-old James Powell being shot by a lieutenant in Harlem. If you go to 1965 and you look at the Watts riots, it was an unarmed motorist being shot. You go to 1968 and with the assassination of Dr. King, and then we come almost 25 years forward, and you look at 1992 in Rodney King. You go to 2014 in Ferguson, Missouri. You go to 2015 in Baltimore with Freddie Gray. And now 2020. All of these things have something in common. All of them, with the exception of Dr. King. But he was a black man that was killed. All was killed unarmed at the hands of the police. You see, Skip, what black people are saying, you know what? We'll live with a lot of disadvantages. We'll live knowing that our healthcare system is not like it is for our counterparts. We will live with knowing that our education system is not like our counterparts. We will live with knowing that our unemployment rates, and we get hired and fired we get hired at a lower rate, fired at a higher rate than our counterparts. We will live with that, Skip. But where we draw the line is that you're killing our unarmed black men and women. That is where we draw the line. George Powell was the straw that broke the camel's back. That's what this was, Skip. This was a powder keg that has been growing. And they've been trying to say, Dr. King said it so eloquently many, many years ago. He said riots are the language of the unheard. What is it that America has failed to hear? What is it? You see, Skip, if you look at us, Skip, if you go back through the 400-year history, there is no history of black people murdering white people, rioting and looting. There's no history of that. You see the difference between what we protest and what our counterparts. Whites, Skip, after 8 weeks of being quarantined where you couldn't go, whites say, you know what? I want to have the ability to go get a haircut. I want to have the ability to go get a tattoo. I want to have the ability to go to a diner or a restaurant, sit down, possibly infect others with COVID-19. It's hard for me to believe, Skip, all these people that were protesting at the time that was going up to the state capitol, heavily armed, I might add, had been tested for the virus. You see, Skip, what they were protesting was the ability to be served. Blacks will protest the ability to be heard. You see the difference, Skip? That's what they done after 8 weeks. They started protesting to be served. Well, I can't take it anymore. You're infringing on my rights. But we protest after 400 years, after murder, brutalization after brutalization, and people lose their mind. And I don't care about the Skip. I'll be the first to admit, Skip, for me, and maybe it's because as I've gotten older, things that can be replaced hold less value to me. In Atlanta, what they did got within 600 yards of my home. My assistant that lives in my home, she called and said, well, Shannon, what do you want me to do? I said, I want you to do, if it gets any closer, I want you to take what you're going to need to be able to survive and get the hell out of there. I said, I don't care anything about that house. Skip, yes, I got jerseys from high school and college, things that will never be replaced. I can get replicas, but George Floyd can't get a replica life. Freddie Gray, Eric Garner, Alton Sterling, Walter Scott, Athena Jefferson, Breonna Taylor. Let's not forget her, Skip, the young lady in Louisville, Kentucky. As they knock on the wrong door, bang, barge through, shoot her 8 times as she slept. Let's not forget her. You see, Skip, I don't get it. What? See, they say, oh, violent. Look at all those looters. Skip, it's almost the perfect storm. You get all these unarmed killing of black men and women, and then you get COVID-19 and so many, 40 million are out of work. A large segment of that is black. So now you have the perfect storm. You have frustration. You have anger that starts to spill over. I got a wife. I got a kid that I got to provide for, and I have no job. You damn right I'm going to go to the grocery store. You damn right I'm going to go get a T-shirt or a pair of jeans or some sneakers. Absolutely. That's the way it works. I wonder if people understand what the Boston Tea Party was. Let's not forget the Tea Party was not people sitting down drinking tea. It was taxation without representation, Skip. So what was valuable? The tea was valuable. That's why they dumped it in the harbor. Led up having a war, didn't we, Skip, behind it? The formulation of America. So America was built on protest, was built on riots. Now when black people feel they can't be heard, they can't control the anger. Skip, that's what happens, Skip. When you get angry, Skip, you don't say, well, oh, this is valuable. I don't want to throw this. Oh, that's a perfect good. No, you frustrated, you lash out at that moment. Skip, this is so many years of frustration and anger that is uncontrollable. The rage started to spill because they said, hold on. We saw this on camera. Let Pookie rob a liquor store and kill the man behind the camera. You don't say, well, we need more information. We need to, Skip, what information, more information did you need? You had enough information to fire him, but you didn't have enough information to charge him. And it's like, here we go again. And Skip, you remember when we first talked about this, I said, Skip, what they're going to do? They're going to do an autopsy on this man, and they're going to come back with an underlying condition. So in other words, Skip, he had hypertension, the possible of intoxicants. There were things in his system. So in other words, what the coroner said, this man was too unhealthy to survive his air supply being restricted for 9 minutes. Skip, they say President Lincoln had what they call Marfan syndrome. So it was a combination between that disease, that illness, and a bullet to the back of the head that possibly killed Lincoln. You see how dumb that sounds? You can't say because someone has an underlying condition. The only thing I would ask the coroner, at that very moment, without the air supply being restricted for 9 minutes, would he have dropped dead at that very moment, regardless of his conditions? Absolutely not. Skip, this was a long time coming. Now, let me tell you, if you think this was bad, let them get off. Skip, you and I, and we've kind of talked about this off the air. If they let this man go, if they don't hurry up and charge these, because you hear the saying, no justice, no peace. What does that mean? Without justice, you get no peace. That's it. And before I turn it back over to you, Skip, there's a saying that we've been saying, I've heard my great-grandmother say it. It's a great thing to be from rural South Georgia and to be able to witness things. Skip, have you ever heard whites in America saying, we shall overcome? That's a Negro spiritual. That's a hymn. We shall overcome. If I'm a citizen in America, I'm born, I'm naturalized, whatever the case may be, Skip. If I'm a citizen, why should I have to fight for rights that's given to our white counterparts upon birth? I'm a citizen. There should be no civil rights. There should be nothing. I should be able to get health care, education. I should be able to get employment just like my counterpart. And even then, Skip, we didn't protest. Even though we're undereducated, even though the health system doesn't work in our favor, even though the unemployment doesn't work in our favor, we don't protest that. We protest the brutalization and the killing of unarmed men, and people still can't seem to see and understand why. So that's where I am. I'm not surprised, but they better hurry up and charge these other three, and they better make sure they get a conviction, or they're going to burn it down again, and it will be worse.
So I love and respect hearing the years of anger and frustration in your voice right now. And I told you last Tuesday, the day after this murder was committed, that this officer, Derek Chauvin, must be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And now that I've seen new video, the other two officers who held him down from behind that I couldn't see in the first video must be charged. The fourth officer who stood by and watched this as it went on for 8 minutes and 46 seconds must be charged somehow. He must be prosecuted somehow to the full extent of the law. So I am so with you. And I do believe a lot of white eyes have been opened to this. This is different than all the others that came before. All the ones that we've talked about for years on the show, Eric Garner, Tamir Rice, Tavon Martin, Michael Brown. I can go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And I'm tired of talking about it as you're tired of living it. Now, to the deepest issue here, what a lot of us sat most of the day yesterday and watched, certainly here in Los Angeles. The town of Santa Monica was just ransacked. It was looted. It was burned. It's a tourist destination that a lot of people around the country may know from the Ferris wheel out on Santa Monica Pier. Shannon, let's talk 1,000% real about looting and burning. I was shaken by it, but I want you to know, I'm speaking obviously as a white man here, my emotions are very mixed about this at this point in time. Obviously, my deepest instinct is looting and burning is not the right way to solve all this. But to all of your points, it has come to this as the last gasp. The only way to get white America's attention is this way. Were some people just looting to rob? Yeah, they were just looting to rob. But was a lot of the emotion that was spent over the weekend, was it years of pent-up frustration and emotion and anger and outrage and fear? Yes, it was. And I can't condemn it. I get it. It's hard for me to support it, but I can't condemn it. And I just want you to know that as much as I was torn, I would see the interviews with the white shopkeepers on Melrose Avenue here in LA on Saturday night. These are mom and pop shop owners. These are immigrants. These are second generation immigrants. These are minority owners of these stores, and they just got ransacked and burned. And it hurt me to watch these interviews with these people because they were kind of innocent bystanders. It's kind of collateral damage. But Shannon, I want people to know watching this show, I'm with the premise of this. It has come to this. This is black people saying, hey, we just can't take it anymore. As you pointed out, not only has everyone been quarantined, and a lot of black people as well as white people have lost their jobs, and there's no real hope and end in sight, but this is saying, I'm fed up, I've had enough, and the only way I can get your attention is to loot and burn. And again, it's hard for me, Shannon, because I'm not advocating it. I just tell you I get it. I understand it. And I loved what Kareem Abdul-Jabbar wrote yesterday in the op-ed piece that he wrote for the Los Angeles Times. He said, Shannon, yes, he said, yes, protests often are used as an excuse for some to take advantage. I don't want to see stores looted or even buildings burnt. But African Americans have been living in a burning building for many years. Okay? I get that. I am with that. And I loved what he said in the end. Kareem said, so maybe the black community's main concern right now isn't whether protesters are social distancing, staying 3 to 6 feet apart, or whether a few desperate souls steal some T-shirts or even set a police station on fire, but whether their sons, husbands, brothers, and fathers will be murdered by cops or wannabe cops just for going on a walk or a drive. I get that. I feel that. And if nothing else, I think we had an outpouring of emotion that at least got people's attention for the first time since the Rodney King riots here in LA that you brought up in 1992, when, by the way, 63 people died. As yet, I don't know anybody who's died in the riot. Maybe I've missed something, but it hasn't quite come to that. Maybe we're heading there. But to all of your points, this is hundreds of years of frustration built up and pouring out in ways that finally are opening the eyes of everyone in our country that we have a very serious hair trigger, so to speak, issue going on here. So I appreciate you bringing that up. And I want you to know how mixed my emotions are about rioting to get attention that must be gotten at this point.
Well, Skip, do you understand the original in America? One of the original reasons was riots was to scare black people and keep them in their place. Remember how they firebombed? In 1960, they were firebombing churches. If you tried to vote, Skip, back in the 60s, when you try to vote, you would have to give your name, where you live, and who you work for. That information was passed along to the KKK. They came to see you in the middle of the night, burned the cross in your yard, or burned your house down. You probably was going to lose your job when they came and told the master that you tried to register to vote. So then, you see, as Fannie Lou Hamer once said, she says, I don't get it. She said, when they were firebombing us in our churches and burning our buildings down, people forget, Skip, May 31st, 1921, the Tulsa massacre and riots where they burned a whole black city to the ground, to ashes. What was that trying to do? To scare and to keep them in their place. That's what this is about. So where do you think blacks learned it from? Oh, because see, Skip, that's what you care about. What do you value more than life? Buildings, things, shoes, sneakers, artifacts. They say we'll burn it to the ground. If we can't have some of it, you can't have any of it either. And that's the thinking, the mind. Skip, if a man is living in hell, he doesn't care about going to hell. And that's what some blacks feel right now. This is hell right here on earth. And we want it to get better. You keep promising us for 400 years. Skip, this is what we've been asked. We've been asked to see the best of America while giving the worst of America. And they say we've had enough. So either you hear us now. Can you, Skip, you know the slogan, can you hear us now? No justice, no peace. Now we're tired. We keep telling you there are officers, and I'm tired of this. Well, if you want to say there's a few bad apples, because see, that's the narrative, Skip. No, it's systemic. This is embedded. And a lot of the things that the previous administration, the checks and balances that they put on the force were thrown away. Well, if you want to say there's a few bad apples, there's a few bad apples in this group that's causing all this. But this is the problem that I have, Skip. They say it's a few bad apples when it comes to police officers. But when they label blacks, it's the entire race. They don't say it's a few bad apples. They say it's all of us. Yeah. So even the bad apples get lumped in with the good apples, and the good apples sometimes get snuffed out as well. Huh? Mm-hmm. Where is that? Mm. I've been trying, Dr. King,
so Shannon,
it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
No, that's okay. Go ahead, finish. Dr. King.
No, I was saying, Dr. King said, Skip, he foretold it. If you think about this, Skip, and you see all these people, a lot of people that despise Dr. King and their ancestors despise Dr. King, quoting, Skip, He was peaceful. If Dr. King was marching arm in arm, saying, "We shall overcome," how in the hell did dogs come to get to that protest? How did water cannons get to that protest? How did billy clubs that was used to go upside their head and hit them in their mouth get to that protest? So violence has always been perpetrated. The purveyor of violence in American history has been the government, America herself. And now, you see an uprising, Skip. I'm tired of you beating me. I'm going to fight you back, Skip. You know animals. You love animals. But if you abuse an animal long enough, he'll lash out at you. And if he doesn't get you, you get tired of it and you give him to the pound, they try to give him to somebody else. And all that abuse he's taken over the years, it'll lash out at somebody else that all they tried to do was love it. And you see these rights, Skip, a lot of these didn't have anything to do with it. But when something gets fed up and get tired of you abusing it, it will lash out and it will bite and it will ruin anything in its sight. Skip, they keep saying the hurricanes and tornadoes and wildfires are getting worse. If you don't notice, Skip, these rebellions, these uprisings, these riots, these protests, they're getting worse. They're getting worse, America. You need to listen. See, I think the biggest thing is, Skip, is that white America is afraid. Just think, if black America were to come to power, like white America is in power now, and do to them what has been done to us for 400 years. So starting tomorrow, Skip, the next seven generations of whites would have done to them what black America has had done for 401 years, since 1619 when they landed here and 1620 when Jamestown was founded. Let that sink in for a second. You talk about violence, but that's not who we are. That's not us, Skip.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.